Hey everybody, happy Thursday. Welcome back to Tech Time with Tammy. Today's topic is going to be on flow coding. Sometimes the terminology is not used the way that it's actually meant, and actually I think most times it's just not used the way that it's intended. Most people, when they're describing a flow coat, are truly just describing a re-clear. They're not describing anything more than that. If you're going to take your clear and you're going to sand it down with say 800, which is what a lot of people like to do when they have enough material film build. That is the most crucial thing, number one, when it comes to the technique that we're going to describe. You cannot do the aggressive cut and the re-clear if you do not have proper film build to be able to cut that aggressive, to get it dead flat, to get it to where you want it to be, to level how you want it to level so that when the clear goes on top of it, it smooths and slicks and everything. So with a flow coats and the terminology, the very first time I ever heard of the flow coat was a very long time ago. It actually came from John Kosmosky, and he explained what his process was for that. The reason I say that people get the terminology confused is this. Most people, when they want to do a re-clear, are sanding it and they're re-clearing at the exact same way that they sprayed the initial first session of clear, meaning they're not over reducing it. They're still doing the normal mix, the normal everything that they would normally do. Now, granted, clear over clear is always better, meaning you will always notice that clear lays better over already sanded clear. It always has, it always will. So even a re-clear is going to give you a nicer finish over sanded clear than just over standard base coat. So you'll notice right off the bat, if you just do a re-clear, you'll like it better. That said, the reason that a lot of people need to do this technique is one, they just don't lay their clear out the way that they need to or the way that they would have wanted to right off in the first session. Meaning maybe it was a new clear, you didn't quite have your gun dialed in, you didn't quite have your technique the way you wanted, whatever the reason was, you have a little bit more texture, you have a little bit more whatever, maybe some trash, maybe whatever that you have in there that you don't want. So when you sand that completely flat, get that totally dead flat the way that you want it. You don't always have to go as aggressive as 6. It is a preference for a lot of people, especially for super high-end show car work. Getting it dead flat just has a totally different look, totally different depth when you do that process. Now, when you want to do a true flow coat, this is the textbook definition of a flow coat. You would take your mix. Let's just say you're using the 66 clear. That mix is 2-to-1. Most people have to mix the 66 clear with some form of reduction. Not everybody, but most people. So let's say you did it at a 2-to-1, which is the normal mix, and then you normally just do a 10% reduction. And that's how you sprayed it the very first time that you did it. That would be a normal way of spraying it, right? But now you want to sand it back down with 6, which, by the way, with the 357-66 Euro Clear, you at 3 coats, just at 3 coats, by the way, not at 4 or 5 or any more than that. At 3 coats, you've achieved proper mill. I don't care what gun it is. I don't care what your spraying technique is. Based off the solids, based off 3 coats, you've achieved proper mill build to be able to be that aggressive if you choose to do this. Now, when you're flow coating it, you wouldn't do the normal mix of the 2-to-1 and the 10% like you did the first time. When you're flow coating it, you're going to over reduce it. Now, why? Because over reducing of clear makes it more user-friendly. It is why lower solids clears are more user-friendly for most people. They just spray easier. The way that they are designed, the way that they are thinner is why they spray easier. It is probably a large reason why so many of the companies choose to make their products anywhere between the 40 to 45 to 47% solids range, because a lot of people don't struggle when they're spraying those clears. It doesn't make them better, by the way. It does not make the clear better, the fact that most companies do that. Most companies have to sell to the masses. Most people do not do videos like I do. They're not out there holding your hand. They're not out there putting out videos and doing all of this stuff to educate the normal person. They expect you to be a professional, and they expect you to be able to know what to do just based off reading their tech sheet, which will not discuss a flow coat, by the way. So a real flow coat would be reducing it 20 to 25%, lowering the solids content, not giving you quite as much mill build per coat because you've already done that in the first session, and now you're just coming back to give a slicker finish. So by over reducing it, you're going to have an easier time slicking it totally dead flat, and it's also automatically going to look better because clear over clear automatically looks better. So do you have to flow coat? Absolutely not. It is a personal choice. Do I hear people use the terminology on a regular basis, think they know what they're talking about, and they're wrong? Absolutely. Most people that you see are simply doing a re-clear, and that's all they're doing. And when I say it's a re-clear, it's because it's no different than when you cleared it the first time. You're just sanding it and you're re-clearing it again. That's why it's a re-clear. So when you're flow coating, you would over reduce that clear to give the slicker finish. So some clears don't like being over reduced. Some clears will never be truly designed to do a flow coat. Some clears are just designed to just do a re-clear, meaning they're not meant to be over reduced. They won't spray any better for you if you over reduce them, and they absolutely won't flow any better if you over reduce them. So I would say that it's very specific on the clear that you would use to do your flow coat with. Now, when it comes to a re-clear, like I said, that doesn't matter. That's literally just spraying it again. So will you always get a better job? No matter what anybody wants to tell you, will you always get a better job when you do clear over clear versus clear over base? Yes, that is just the nature of it. It just always lays smoother. It always lays flatter. Now, I do think that if you sand your base coat, which a lot of people don't like to do, and you can't typically sand like metallics or pearls because it will ruin the orientation of that and you would have to redo it. But for solid colors, sanding your base does give a smoother finish, which does make the clear lay nicer. So little pro tip, if you're doing black and you sand your black prior to your clear, it's going to give a little bit better depth to it because it's now going to make that clear lay smoother right off the bat because it's a sanded surface now and it's just going to lay that much slicker when you do it. So that's a little bit of tip if that helps. Okay, so let's just round it out here again. A flow coat is over reducing your clear the second time you're spraying, over a 600 to 800 grit, typically when you're doing it. A re-clear is just sanding it, re-clearing it the exact same way you did it. Will again it look better the second time because you went over clear? Absolutely. Does it cause you a possibility of having more issues, meaning like you already did the job, everything was perfect? Could you possibly come back with your re-clear and things not work the way you want and something happen? Absolutely. So take that into consideration. Not everybody's environment is set up to do this. Not everybody's mind is set up to do this. Not everybody wants to do this. They don't want to put all the extra effort. It's not meant for every single job. Not every single job needs to be re-cleared. Not every single job needs to be flow coated. That said, it is a process that you can do, but this is to better let you understand the difference between a flow and a recoat. Hopefully that helped you guys. RevoltAutoPaint.com. Hope you guys are having a great night. I'll be back again tomorrow for another video on another topic. Take care, guys. Bye.